life, meaning it is an important colorless, odorless element. Nitrogen can be in the soils and plants, in the water we drink, and in the air we breathe. The nitrogen cycle is a repeating cycle of process during which nitrogen moves through both living and non-living things, the atmosphere, soil, water, plants, and bacteria. It is also essential to life, a key building block of DNA, which determines our genetics. It is essential to plant growth, and therefore necessary for the food we grow. The key is balance. Too little nitrogen means plants cannot thrive, leading to low crop yields. Too much nitrogen harms the plants in our ecosystem. Plants that don't have enough nitrogen become yellowish and do not grow well, and can have smaller flowers and fruits. But too much can hurt plants and animals and pollute other aquatic systems. Although 78% by volume in the atmosphere is nitrogen gas, this abundant reservoir exists in a form unusable by most organisms. Nitrogen is a key element in the nucleic acid and RNA, which are the most important of all biological molecules and crucial for all living things. Throughout the nitrogen cycle, nitrogen is converted into many forms. First, from the atmosphere is the soil, then to organisms, and again to the atmosphere. Nitrogen gas exists in both organic and inorganic forms. This nitrogen is made available to plants by symbiotic bacteria, which can convert the insert nitrogen into a usable form. Nitrogen undergoes various types of transformation to maintain a balance in the ecosystem. Furthermore, this process extends to various boundaries, with the marine nitrogen cycle being one of the most complicated biochemical cycles. To move to different parts of the cycle, nitrogen must change forms. In the atmosphere, N2 is the nitrogen that exists as gas, but in soil, it exists as nitrogen oxide or NO, and nitrogen dioxide NO2, and when used as fertilizer can be found in other forms, such as ammonia, NH3, which can be processed even further into a different fertilizer, ammonium nitrate or NH4 or NO3. Why is nitrogen cycle important? The nitrogen cycle matters because nitrogen is an essential nutrient for sustaining life on Earth. The nitrogen cycle describes how nutrient moves from the biosphere in the atmosphere. It is important because living things require nitrogen. The delicate balance of substances that is important for maintaining life is an important area of research, and the balance of nitrogen in the environment is no exception. When plants lack nitrogen, they become yellow with stunted growth and produce smaller fruits and flowers. Farmers may add fertilizer containing nitrogen to their crops. To increase crop growth without nitrogen fertilizer, scientists estimated that we would lose up to one-third of the crops we rely on for food and other types of agriculture, but we need to know how much nitrogen is necessary for the plant growth, because too much can pollute waterways, hurting aquatic life. There are 5 stages in the nitrogen cycle, and we will now discuss each of them in turn. Fixation or volatilization, mineralization, nitrification, immobilization, and denitrification. The first stage in the nitrogen cycle is what we call nitrogen fixation. In this stage, nitrogen moves from the atmosphere to the soil. Sadly, this nitrogen is unavailable to plants because of the gaseous form cannot be used directly by plants without transforming to be used by plants. The N2 must transform through a process called nitrogen fixation. Fixation converts nitrogen in the atmosphere into forms that plants cannot absorb through their root system. A small amount of nitrogen can be fixed when lightning provides the energy needed for N2 to react with the oxygen, producing nitrogen oxide or NO and nitrogen dioxide NO2. Nitrogen can also be fixed through the industrial process that creates fertilizer. This form of fixing occurs under high heat and pressure, during which atmospheric nitrogen and hydrogen are combined to form ammonia or NH3, which may be processed further to produce ammonium nitrate. The majority of nitrogen fixation occur naturally in the soil by bacteria. You can see nitrogen fixation exchange of form occurring in soil. A symbiotic relationship exists between some bacteria and plant roots. During photosynthesis, bacteria get energy, and in exchange, they fix nitrogen into a form the plant can use. After the nitrogen is fixed in the plant, it is carried to other parts of the plant where it is used to form plants' tissues. The next stage, which is the second stage, is mineralization. This stage takes place in the soil. Nitrogen moves from organic materials such as manure plants materials to an inorganic form of nitrogen that plant can use. Eventually, the plant's nutrients are used up and the plant dies and decomposes. This becomes important in the second stage of the nitrogen cycle. Mineralization happens when microbes act on organic materials such as animal manure or decomposing plants of animal material and begin to convert into a form of nitrogen that can be used by plants. All plants under cultivation except legumes get the nitrogen they require to the soil. Legumes get nitrogen through fixation that occurs in the roots nodules, as described above. The first form of nitrogen produced by the process of mineralization is ammonia, NH3. The NH3 in the soil then reacts with water to form ammonium, NH4. This amount is held in the soil and is available for use by plants that do not get nitrogen through the symbiotic nitrogen-fixing relationship, like what I discussed in nitrogen fixation. The third stage is nitrification, which also occurs in the soil. During nitrification, the ammonia in the soils produced during mineralization is converted into compounds called nitrites and nitrates. Nitrates can be used by plants and animals that consumes the plants. Some bacteria in the soil can turn ammonia into nitrites. Although nitrite is not usable by plants and animals directly, other bacteria can change nitrites into nitrate. This reaction provides energy for the bacteria engaged in this process. The bacteria that we are talking about is called Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter. Both kinds of bacteria can act only in the presence of oxygen or N2. O2. Plants benefits from nitrification since it provides a natural reserve of nitrogen that their roots can absorb. The second to the last stage is immobilization, sometimes called the reverse of mineralization. These two processes together control the amount of nitrogen in soils, just like plants, microorganism, an organism, or living thing that is too tiny to be seen without a microscope, such as a bacterium living in the soil requires nitrogen as an energy source. When microorganisms take in ammonium and nitrite, this form of nitrogen are no longer available to the plants and may cause nitrogen deficiency or a lack of nitrogen. Immobilization, therefore, ties up nitrogen microorganism. However, immobilization is important because it helps control and balance the amount of nitrogen in the soils by tying it up or immobilizing nitrogen in microorganism. The final and fifth stage is denitrification. In the fifth stage of the nitrogen cycle, nitrogen returns to the air as nitrite are converted to atmospheric nitrogen or N2 by bacteria through the process we call denitrification. This result is an overall loss of nitrogen from soils as the gaseous form of nitrogen moves in the atmosphere back to where we began our story, and the cycle goes on.